That's looking good. That's looking good. Come on, you can do it.
I think I can. I think I can. I think I can.
That's what it feels like. Webb, come on. Got it. There we go. Now, if it'll let me pop the chat out, life will be really good. There is the chat popped. All right. Brian said he'd probably be a little bit late. Jeff was in question for obvious reasons. So
Let my class go early tonight. It was like, I don't think I can think of anything else that I have to teach you right now. Do you want to go home? They're like, yeah.
if they said no, you better worry.
And they said, well, you know, you need to take care of your health too. And I'm like, don't pin this on me.
Which, well, I was good. Marty, since you brought it up, how are you making out? Everything good?
Yeah, you know, it was a whole crazy emergency room hurry up and wait situation when I got to Chicago on Friday, and my brother-in-law is a doctor who has been an emergency room doctor for years, just retired. And so it was nice to have him to kind of translate stuff, but he was like, they need to give you this. And they dilly-dallied around it. And then at like 1 o'clock in the morning, they finally gave me that, and that fixed it. But I was in for the night. So then I couldn't get out of the hospital. So
Yeah.
Well, I won't make any comments about that hospital.
good.
'Cause it-
My family had a great time walking around the hospital. There was no one there. It was just the staffing was ridiculous. So,
Well, did you get to at least one of the games?
yeah, went to Sundays.
Good. Good. All right, so let's see. Where did that go? That's down here.
You know, but my last approach with my doctor on this, when I first showed AFib, said, well, let's see what happens. And well, it happened. So,
There's a word for that in my industry that I'm not going to say here, but I know Webb knows what it is. It ends with practice.
well, I'm going to see him tomorrow. So, you know, we'll.
At least he got you in.
And beg him to get me to a cardiologist.
Take a baseball bat.
I'll just get an appointment with on my own if he doesn't do it.
Okay, Eric, now you can see us.
Yes, much better.
I'm
Much,
so sorry.
much
So
better.
sorry about that.
He has ducks floating through his head. They're going in his ear and coming out the other ear.
Thought I'd try something different.
That could be taken so many ways, but I'm just going to leave it alone. All right, well, let's pull the trigger on this and get it going. As soon as I can find the right thing. There we go. So, in 3, 2.
Underpants.
I heard harmony in there this time.
Jeff has you guys so programmed. You're like sheep.
Gotta keep the
Undersheet.
tradition.
Bah.
Yeah.
I'm bad.
man. 3. I'm sorry. God, you guys just crack me up. 3, 2, 3, 3, 2, 2. Welcome to Mac Voices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. Folks, it's Tuesday night. That must mean it's Mac Voices Live, which is a good thing because it really is Mac Voices Live. We do this Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern, whatever time that is, wherever you are, at youtube.com/Mac Voices TV. You could join us in the chat like some of our friends are already tonight. We have we have a number of people already in the chat. Nobody said, well, I think one has said hello so far. I think the rest of them are just hiding, waiting to see what happens here. We got some stuff to get to, like we always do. I think there are a couple potentially incendiary topics tonight, so we'll see how
All
it
right.
goes. Yeah. Well, we don't want anything boring. So let's go around the table, see who's here, and then we'll get to it. And I want to flip it around this time, just because Eric Bolden has something really new behind him. So we're going to start with Eric. Eric, good to see you. What is your background tonight?
In one ear, out the other ear. Tonight it's wood ducks.
Okay, and this was taken recently?
Yeah. This is, I think, yesterday.
Hmm.
You know, you're
Okay.
driving along and all of a sudden you see ducks scattered everywhere. You pull over, you wait for a second. That one wood duck right there starts screaming at everybody to kind of clump together, and they come zipping all back again, kind of like, you know, they're on little springs, scatter and back in the, and then they're heading off to go, you know, off to school or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
That, to me, it looks like a bunch of different ages of ducks, so I'm not sure how many different ages they kind of threw in here, but there is a story there somewhere. I didn't get it.
It
And
looks
either
very,
are we, I guess.
yeah, it looks very peaceful. It looks very peaceful.
Yeah, it's nice.
So good. It's good to have you. Marty Gensius, good to have you as well. You were doing some traveling this weekend. I'm glad you made it back and were able to make it here.
Yeah, I did some traveling this weekend, went to Chicago to pick up 2 Cubs games and only got to see one because I got the cherished tradition of going to a Chicago emergency room with a little bit of a health scare. And everything's okay. But, you know, when you have health scares, those close to you, like my wife has come up with a pet name for me now. Do you want to know what the pet name is?
Well, of course.
Absolutely.
If I don't have to edit it.
You can't eat that. That's her pet name for me.
That's a pet name? More of a phrase.
Well, whatever way you want to take it.
Okay. Well, I was afraid of what might be coming. So,
You.
Webb Bixby is here. Webb, it's good to have you. Does the Quote Queen have a pet name for you that you can repeat?
No,
No, she doesn't. Or no, you can't repeat it.
I'm just leaving it at that. So
Okay.
no,
All right.
the pet name is No. So
That's fair.
hey, honey, no.
Yeah. Okay. From now on, Webb Bixby will be known as Dr. No.
Yeah.
Just no.
Just
I don't have my PhD. So.
Checking in from a thunderstorm, which is kind of unusual for where he lives, Jim Ray. Jim, good to have you. I hope that everything holds up okay.
Me too.
Okay. Good to have
Well,
you.
Yeah, I definitely. It's good so far.
Okay. Okay.
Lights are still on.
Wow. Last but not least, David Ginsburg is here. David, good to have you.
Great to be here. And it's like 85 here today. So we got some warm weather. But great to be here. Looking forward to the chat and getting anxious about WWC.
Exactly. And I lied. Dave is not last but not least. Jeff Gammett is last but not least because he snuck in under the wire. Jeff, good to have you. Glad you made it.
Yeah, go me.
Yep. As usual, Jeff, we could use a little more gain from you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was trying to catch it before you got to me, but you are far more efficient than I am.
Well, that's not a problem. Not a problem.
Oh,
Just
holy crap. You can use a lot more from me.
yeah.
How about that? Is this
Wow.
better?
Whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
a little too much.
Yeah. Back it down just a little.
Oh, fine. I see how it is. Yeah, give us more, Jeff. Give us more. Oh, that's too much.
No.
Okay, is this better?
You get that a lot, Jeff.
Thank you.
probably,
Thank
right?
you.
I do get that a lot. Yes.
Mhm.
Eric, you okay over there?
Yeah.
You're reaching for the drink. That's a mistake. That's a mistake. Oh gosh. Well, one thing we're not going to do for a couple reasons. We're not going to do a
Oh wait,
lot
Chuck,
of. Oh yeah, Jeff.
underpants.
We already did.
Too
We already
late.
took care of that for you.
Yeah, yeah. That was
We already took care of that for you.
pre-show. Yes,
I
But
do
thank you.
appreciate that.
But thank you.
And then
So-
we were called names that we're brainwashed by Mr. Gamet was what someone on this panel said. I'm not saying who.
Well, all I'm saying is that I'm really proud of all of you.
Webb and I were in harmony with this. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We've never heard. I mean, we're gonna have to start rehearsing a little more to get it right.
No.
No,
I try to stay out of other people's underpants.
Yeah.
Oh, Joe.
Marty, I'm going to have to draw you a diagram.
This is
No diagrams.
this is off the wall already. Already. Well, we're not going to spend a lot of time on WWDC because by the time that, unless you're hearing us live, by the time most of you hear this, there's a fair chance that WW will already have happened or be underway. I'm going to try maybe to do a little editing, rearranging, and get this out ahead. But at this point, you've all seen the rumors, you've all heard the speculation, and so it is going to be what it is. And we will try to do a reaction to it on next week's show because it'll be the day after the keynote. So we will have had time to digest what is announced and all the rampant speculation that will occur. One thing, though, I did want to touch on, because we had touched on this a little while back, sort of from a different angle, and that is that this year there will be no Apple executives on John Gruber's talk show live at WWDC. And I know there have been a lot of folks talking about this, a lot of folks speculating as to whether this was a bit of retribution for some of John's comments about Apple and Apple in general, Tim Cook maybe in specific. I was kind of anxious to see what you all thought about this. Is this a good move? Is it a bad move? Does it make sense? And that's sort of the question I have an answer for, but I'm going to throw it out to the panel and see, and Jim, I'm going to start with you since you're wearing a Daring Fireball jacket. And obviously a fan of John, because otherwise, why would you wear his jacket? What do you think about this?
When he came out with his post a couple months ago, that was my instant. I wonder if Apple will still show up to his soiree. So I guess I nailed that. I think it's really stupid on Apple's part, and kind of chicken. That they're afraid to appear in public. As far as for John's event, I think it might be a good thing. I honestly thought those events were getting kind of boring. There was never any news. John always pulled his punches on the questions he asked. I think, in the interest of being able to have continued access. So, there was never any breaking news and hardly anything of interest. And in fact, last year I had a ticket to the event and went to the party ahead of time, what do you call it, reception, and then left and went to another event and didn't go to the actual event itself. I figured I could watch it on YouTube. So, but I think on Apple's part, it makes them look really small. But I'm not really surprised. It seems to fit in with everything else. I think last year the event didn't sell out. And I have a feeling it probably won't this year either. I'm not going to try to get a ticket this year because there's a couple other events that I'm already signed up for that I'd prefer to go to.
You're just in high demand, Jim.
Well, no, I'm not in high demand. I mean, I'm just attending, Paul Hudson's having an event from 4 to 6, and I guess maybe something else till 7, and then there's a iOS Dev Happy Hour event, which is what I left Guru's event last year to go to, because I figured I'd rather hang out with people in person than be part of 1,000 people in an audience. So I feel the same way, this year.
Okay.
Although the reception last year was really good, and I met with people in person. So, but there's just no way I can't be at Paul Hudson's thing and at the reception at the same time. So,
Yeah. Well, you have to bring us back a party report next week as to how everything went.
it's going to go great. It was awesome last year. I'm sure it's going to be great this year. But
Good.
unfortunately, this Paul Hudson thing is also the same time as Mac Voices. So I won't be
Oh,
here.
well then, sorry, Paul. Jim won't be there.
Maybe I can zoom from the audience there.
Yeah, that would be unusual. And so feel free if you can do it.
I'll see if I can figure out some way to pop in.
Yeah. Marty?
I'm going to be a little more forgiving for Apple on this than Jim mentions. I kind of think they found this. It's like going to a wedding. You get invited to a wedding. It's like you don't really want to go, but it's time for you to go anyways. And I think this gave them a perfect opportunity to kind of say, no, we're not going to do this year. We're going to try and separate our message out from whatever messages in the past has come through this. So I just see them, I think they took advantage of they are taking advantage of a bad situation. Unfortunately, I think people are going to look at it and say, well, that's pretty petty of Apple. But I think Apple saw what happened with their messaging and they'd rather have more control on it than speculation coming out of a media person. So,
Okay. Jeff?
But don't you think this indicates that we don't feel that we can control the message if we, like we can't take the heat, basically?
I think they have made this decision and they've made decisions in the past that to get out of a fight, basically, if all they're going to do is try and prove that they've been misrepresented, if they feel that way, then it just brings up the misrepresentation. If you're not even on the playground, you won't get into a fight.
Jeff?
Jim and Marty are both right. So we can just end the show right there because nailed it. However, here's my perspective. I'm with Jim. I believe that Apple was like, screw you, I'm going home, because they didn't like what John said, and so they're not going to talk to him anymore. The other side of that is, if Apple saw value in talking to Jim still, they would. So their calculus says it's not worth the money we have to spend on our executives to go and chit chat with John for a couple hours. Now, all of that said, I think it would have been a good idea for Apple to do this anyhow, because it would have been a really, really good opportunity to have a casual yet focused discussion about what they're doing with AI technologies. And sure, they're going to give that message to us in the way they want, because as Marty said, they want to control the message. Apple always wants to control the message. So I think they should have done it, but regardless, I have a feeling that it would have been a tough sell for them this year to do it because I don't think they're seeing the value in it anymore. And the fact that Jim didn't go to the event last year, they are apparently not selling out tickets anymore. It doesn't seem to have the draw that it once did. So there's not as much value for Apple.
I should back up a little bit. It must have been close to being sold out. Because it was a big crowd. And but I'm pretty sure there were some tickets still available, and it's a good sized theater.
It is.
I think it's like 12 or 1500 people, and considering that they don't have 5,000 people in town for Dub Dub anymore.
True.
And it's all done on very short notice in terms of people buying the tickets and whatnot. And I would never have not gone other than the fact that it was conflicting events. And I just made the calculus that, hey, I'd rather, meet up with people in person. And I knew the event would be on YouTube and I could watch it at my leisure. Right.
Mm-hmm. Everything you're
So-
saying validates to me why the value for there isn't there for Apple the way it used to be.
And the audience is way beyond what's in the room. I mean, that YouTube gets, I'm sure hundreds of thousands of views. And I don't think there's any cost, I mean, it's in San Jose, they live there. The cost is drive down to San Jose for, 2 hours. That's it. So there's no budget, but, I think either they wanted to teach John a lesson or, I mean, I can't imagine they thought he would ask them tough questions because he just doesn't do that. But,
He doesn't.
maybe it's like, well, you're no longer our tame lapdog in every post you make. Maybe I think it doesn't seem like they're doing anything else either. Like, well, it's like maybe they could have, we'll go on David Sparks' show or something else, but they're just saying, we're doing nothing. We don't need to interact with this community at all.
Dave,
Yeah,
Chuck,
I mean,
did you invite them on here?
no, I can explain why later,
I'd like to hear that.
and I'm happy to actually. Dave,
I was going to say, it's been a sensitive topic with the Apple AI. Apple Intelligence has not gone well, and believe me, Gruber's not the only one that's been critical of what Apple has done with this. And you're right, Jim. Gruber does kind of tiptoes around them every year. I watched the interviews he's done in the past. He's not talking about he knows what to say and not say because he knows they're not going to answer. And he made it humorous over the years, but this one was kind of hit home to them. They'll make the rounds. I would venture to say it's a lot of content creators. They've done that in the past. I know Greg Federici has done that before. All these other YouTubers, creators that will probably, you might see them on there, but then again, they may not. Maybe they're backing off altogether this year because of the whole debacle with Apple Intelligence. So it's interesting that it just timed this way with them. I just don't know. I don't even know what his special guests are going to be. It says see below, and then you read the text and says, well, they haven't been here. They're not coming since 10 years ago. This is 10 years that they work. This was when their 10th year, and then they opted not to.
Well, John's never announced the guests ahead of time.
Yeah, that's true.
So I think the only reason the impression I got was he was just saying who the guest wasn't this year, so that people wouldn't buy a ticket thinking I'm going to go see Apple executives. So he was like, I don't want to mislead anybody.
Sure.
Sell tickets on a false premise.
Fair. Fair point.
Nah, I'm not sure I agree with that, but
I thought he full out said that in the post.
Pretty much.
well, okay. Eric?
So I think this helps Gruber's reputation a little bit, making him feel like he's, being a little bit more hard hitting. I think if Apple doesn't have anything that they want to say about Apple Intelligence, they don't want to, they're going to avoid being in front of anyone because everyone is going to want to ask them about Apple Intelligence and
There
they
you
don't
go.
want to talk about it. And going in on a format that's going to put them in front of questions for a relatively long time, even if he kind of avoids the elephant in the room, it's still going to come up as a question, and that's not an emphasis they want. So I think it's good, and they still would have the ability next year to come back saying, hey, we've got a great story, and here it is. Or, maybe they have to stay away for a couple of years until they have a good story.
Okay. Let me throw in, Webb, you want in?
Just a couple of things. I
Yeah,
don't
please.
disagree with anything that's been said. I think it'll be interesting to see what they do if they come back next year. I think that's going to say a lot about what's going on. Are they putting Gruber in timeout or not? Maybe yes, maybe no. And it's interesting to speculate. But I also agree with David is that if anything can go wrong with AI, I think in my mind, it definitely went wrong this year. And why do they want to subject themselves to any kind of ridicule like that? They're going to say what they're going to say from the podium and from their pre-produced video. And I think that's going to be the end of it. I think one of the big questions I'm wondering is that how long do we think the keynote's going to be? Is it going to be over or under 90 minutes? Is kind of the question, or maybe 75 minutes is the marker. I predict it's going to be a short announcement this year. They're going to show some cool things on the OSs, and that's going to be about it.
I'd be surprised if it's short. His episodes when he does the talk show is always 2 hours plus.
No,
every time.
I mean the keynote itself. Is it going to be? Is it going
Right.
to be?
I think you also. I think you thought you said the Gruber was going to go less than.
No, I meant the keynote itself. That's what I meant.
Okay. Gotcha.
I don't think Apple has a lot to talk about this year. I'll put it that way.
I agree with probably 90% of what's been said here. A couple key things, though. As far as getting up in front of everyone and being subjected to questions, why give anybody the baseball bat to beat you with? Just don't show up. So that's fine. I get that. Regarding what Jim said, and Jim put in our private chat, Gruber's quote. What was he going to say? I mean, he's already in a bit of a doghouse, and so he's going to spin it as best he can. And whether he did that for his own benefit or to set expectations or both, pick your thing. I do think, though, that if this is in retaliation, I can almost get it, because I feel like that post was not as aimed at Apple as it was a more personal condemnation of Tim Cook. And that's really kind of out of bounds. You want to blame the organization. You want to challenge the organization. That's fine. You're challenging one guy who, unless he's made some major missteps or made a complete idiot of himself, like Steve Ballmer did way back in the day, you don't attack the individual. And that's where I feel like if that's the case, if it's retaliation, that would be my thinking as to why this one hit home harder than some others. Earlier, I said, I had not invited anybody to this show, and I don't invite Apple folks to this show because, first of all, most of the people I know at Apple are always under NDA. And second, I don't believe for a second, and maybe you guys do, and if you do, that's great. I don't believe for a second that anything gets said on Gruber's stage or anybody else's stage that hasn't been vetted by Apple Legal and Apple PR and a dozen other Apple departments. I think they know exactly what they're going to tell. They know exactly what they're going to say. Sure, they can squeeze it around and flip it a little bit, but they aren't going to give away any secrets. I don't recall a secret ever being given away, or as somebody said, "Oh my God, they fleshed some things out." And if they don't have any the announcements like Webb said, there's going to be nothing to flesh out. So why show up? Jeff, I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, it's okay. I started talking over you. The thing about Apple's not going to say anything at Gruber's event or anyone else's event that isn't already vetted. To back up what you said as truth, I have sat in the audience on many of Gruber's events, and I remember sitting there watching Apple senior level executives on stage looking at their handler who's sitting on stage with them to make sure they could answer the question. And I mean, and it's weird to watch because, here's Gruber. So, tell me about the new thing that Siri does where it goes and buys your groceries, whatever it is. And then here's Craig Federighi, and before he answers, he does this. And he's looking at the handler, and the handler goes, and then he answers the question.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Jeff, you know what? Now that you say that, I don't think I realized the handler was there, but I have seen those moves where, they're kind of looking off stage or looking to somewhere for direction, and everybody laughs about it as if they're, maybe consulting their own mental notes. And if you're saying they're consulting a handler, that actually makes a lot more sense.
Yep.
Yeah.
I would have thought Craig Federighi was his own handler.
You would think, but he works for Apple.
Yeah. So this to me is not a big thing. I think John spun it very well. I think he had to. I don't agree with a lot of things in that post, and I definitely don't agree with the tone of the post. And so, if he had gotten the Apple people on stage, it could have gone one of two ways. Either he could have danced around it and played nice, and everybody would have talked about him being a sellout, or he could have been an attack dog and, really burned his relationship with Apple. So in a lot of ways, this may be the best thing that could have happened for everybody involved, is just let us speculate on what the real reasons are and the real thinking is and move on. And it'll be forgotten in a year or so.
It'll be forgotten by Wednesday.
Well, yeah, good point. So let's see.
But I'm not sure I understand why you think John spun this. I think it was Eric. I agree with him that this is probably somewhat positive for John. I don't see how it's bad for him.
If you don't see being scolded by Apple like this, because obviously John was very much in their favor. If you interpret it as a scolding, well, that can't be good for him. I wouldn't think.
I see it as more they're afraid to show up.
Well, that's the beauty of this. You can choose to interpret it as you wish. So,
I wonder how this all came about 10 years ago. Who approached who? I kind of always had thought that probably somebody at Apple, whoever it was, hey, what if I showed up on your show?
Yeah. Well, water under the bridge now, because they're not showing up on the show unless there's a big surprise coming. I do want to get the chat room in. Barry said the ATP hosts are much harsher on Tim Cook than Gruber.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what do you think about John Syracuse?
Well, and just to my recollection, John hasn't had a whole lot of Apple guests on his show, so so we'll just have to.
They have Chris Latner.
Okay. Okay. So, you know,
But that was a
it
long
is what
time
it
ago.
is. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I don't know. We'll find out what happens at John's show next week, and we'll see what Apple's message is, if any, and where else they choose to interact. I'm looking forward to the announcements, whatever they are, and we'll go from there. Before we go on, I want to welcome Brian Flanagan Arthurs. He showed up. Brian, good to have you. I'm glad you made it. I know that you were dealing with some other things in spite of the fact that you're on summer vacation.
Yep. Thank you so much. Appreciate being here. And sorry I'm late.
Don't worry about it. Anytime. Anytime. Next story up is Apple says its App Store rules have saved users billions. That's with a B, Web. Billions. Again, what are your reactions to this? I don't think there's much question about it. I know that Apple draws a lot of fire for maybe not catching every single thing that comes through, and at times maybe not being as diligent as some people would like to see them. But does anybody doubt that they've saved? I don't know how you quantify it, but let's just assume that even if you take 20% of this number, it's still a whole pile of money that people have not been relieved of. Jeff?
I'm sitting here looking at some of the info for this. Okay, so they're saying over 2 billion in 2024, but they've prevented over 9 billion in fraudulent transactions. I have no doubt, like you said, Apple has been instrumental in saving people from being scammed more than once. I have a feeling that Apple's making this announcement because they want to make sure that everyone knows that having app stores that are tightly walled like Apple's are a really great thing. And how do you make politicians and the public wrap their head around that in a way that makes sense for them? Well, you tell them how many billions of dollars you've saved for people because they didn't get scammed out of all that money.
Yeah. According to this, Apple terminated over 146,000 developer accounts over fraud concerns. Let's see what else.
And
139,000.
another 139,000 developer enrollments too. So
Yeah.
they killed 146,000 and stopped 139. So yeah,
Okay, how many of those belong to Epic?
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, this to me it's great PR for the App Store, as a time where people are being told that they can. Oh yeah, you can jump outside the App Store and you can make your purchases, and you can go to alternate app stores and download things, and okay, it'll probably all work out, but if not, don't call Apple.
Yeah, why would you? I mean, it sounds like you think that everything we buy should be bought through Apple. I should get my milk through Apple, and we make transactions all the time without the nanny Apple protecting us, and somehow we manage.
Oh, Jim, what did I just say? Yes, the majority of the time it's going to be. I think it'll be fine, but you have a platform here, not the App Store platform, but the iOS platform that scammers and other evil people want to target. And so, you're taking down one line of defense here. How much of a difference it would make, I have no idea. I don't have access to the data, and even if I did, I'm not sure I could read it. But common sense says that this is one more place that there's going to be just a little less security. Marty, you're looking pensive.
I think it's the numbers are really staggering when you think of if the numbers are accurate, and there's no reason to assume they're not, but it's pretty staggering. I mean, it also kind of talks of the size of Apple's App Store and their whole system, their iCloud system for being able to deal with these different bad elements and intervening on that part. Unfortunately, I think it's great PR, but it probably won't help them in any court cases. It might help from a domestic standpoint, any cases that spring up, and they have been springing up state by state in terms of giving some pushback on states or the feds trying to do something with this domestically. But it's not going to fix what's going on with Epic.
Yeah. Brian?
Yeah, one thing that I thought was pretty interesting. I scrolled down on the article and looked at some of the comments, and one I found to be pretty good and pretty insightful. It says, the two things can be true at once. The App Store has and does protect users in a meaningful way, and their payment policies can be unfair. So, kind of holistically, there could be multiple things going on at once.
Good point. Good point. Barry in the chat
Um,
room says, I don't doubt the stats. They have more work to go, I think. If they're going to go all in on family friendly, why are there so many gambling apps? Yeah, Barry, that's a very fair question. It is worth noting, though, that according to the article, over 10,000 illegitimate apps were blocked on pirate storefronts, including malware, pornography apps, gambling apps, and pirated versions of legitimate apps from the App Store. So,
what is a pirate storefront? I mean, to me, most of these are nonsensical. There is no such thing as a pirate storefront. There's only Apple storefront. It says in the past month, 4.6 million attempts to install or launch illicitly distributed apps have been stopped. What does that mean? How does somebody attempt to install or launch an illicitly distributed app?
I'm assuming that means developers that are using the I forgot the word, that when you can sideload.
yeah,
But you can't sideload on
Yeah,
iOS
but
devices.
you can
And
the provisioning
it's
thing where you can allow an app, like if it's part of a company and it's from outside the App Store and it can still be loaded, that can be abused. Apple shuts it down very quickly. So I'm assuming that's what they're referring to for some of this.
you'd think that they would say that, and that seems very unlikely to me that there would be 4.6 million attempts to use the enterprise thing to do that. And if there was, you'd think Apple would just shut the whole thing down.
oh, Jim,
If somehow people are doing and how something 4.6 million attempts blocked, that means it was done in blocked in some automated manner. So how'd they do that?
well, they're not going to tell you because they're able to do it. I mean, and I'm surprised. I'm surprised.
You're talking magic. You need some sort of. You can't just wave your hand and say magic. There's absolutely no discussion here of what methodologies of what Apple is talking about. I mean, to me, everyone's saying, "Oh, yeah, this seem." I believe these numbers. I totally don't believe them. I think they're basically made up because there's no, how would they count them if they wanted to?
Jim, I'm surprised to hear you say that. Because first of all, that should be easy. How many times you can count logins? You can count anything that an application does, if you decide to build it that way, and if Apple has automated things to kick in to stop nefarious activities, why would they not include a counter of some kind?
Well,
So,
if you stopping judging, that's like spam detection. How do you detect spam? And have you seen it? That's very problematic. And I assume most of us go in and look at our spam folders occasionally because there are mistakes made. Any kind of, when you talk about automated systems for detecting, malicious activity, that is not something that's perfected. So, if they're, saying, well, we've got some automated system, well, then it's surely knocking out a lot of valid transactions or activity as well.
oh, maybe so. And I would think that, we don't have any published figures on it, but if I'm a legitimate developer and my app is getting blocked, I'm going to call Apple, and I'd like to think that they're going to try to work with me to figure out why their automated systems think that I'm doing something nefarious.
That's adorable, Chuck.
Yeah, well,
Apple work with the developer. Please join some of the, Apple does not work with developers. Developers, basically see Apple as the obstacle, and Apple, they reject apps without, constantly, without even telling you why.
Jim, you know what? If developers are having that experience, then go somewhere else. Because
a lot of developers are.
Right, fine, but if I were a developer, and in fact, this applies to anything. I mean, if I go to a store and they abuse me in some way, I'm not going back. And so, that's where I don't know that the harshness that you're attributing.
People do that. For example, it's well known that Walmart is very harsh with its vendors, for example, but it's a big market. So, I mean, back in, when I used to sell software through distributors, and they treated their vendors horribly, but that was the only way to reach the market. So if you wanted to sell software, well, you had to take your lumps and be treated horribly, and in some cases go out of business because of it. So same thing here.
Okay, Jeff.
All right, so here's my totally by the seat of my pants hypothesis that I just came up with on how Apple has come up with these figures, and it's horrible because I can summarize it in a single word: extrapolation. They haven't saved this much money for people because you'd have to show that money to say, look what we saved. What I think has happened for a lot of these numbers is that they've caught apps, and they before anyone even uses them, probably get them blocked, and then they have data on how many times apps are typically downloaded and how much money people are spending through different apps, and so they're using all this other data they have and extrapolating out of that. Well, this is how the number of people that probably would have downloaded the app, and of those people, here's how many would probably have done transactions, and this is about how much that typically comes out to. Therefore, based on what we have blocked, we can extrapolate out and say, well, we've saved people over $2 billion this year, and total it's been over $9 billion. Aren't we great?
Jeff, I'm not sure that's horrible. I mean, look, what did I say at the beginning? If you applied a 20% rule to every statistic here, the statistics are still pretty impressive.
Well, about half the time.
you know, so okay, half the time.
No, that
You know.
that was the joke part because you
Yeah,
know
I-
statistics. Okay.
Yeah, I know, but I guess the point is, you know, okay, so the numbers came from somewhere. The point is that these are large numbers, and Apple's not. They're just not. I just don't believe that anybody in today's litigious environment is going to just throw numbers around without being able to back them up in some reasonably legitimate way. So, you know, did they count out exactly 146,000 developers accounts terminated over fraud? I don't buy that for a second, you know, but somebody did a rounding number, somebody did an extrapolation. I'll take that, but it's still an important number and an important point to make. I see a lot of people just looking at me. I don't know. Anybody else want in this before we move on? All right, let's go on to something a little more controversial. How's that?
Oh, yeah.
You can now do self-repair for your iPad.
How is
on,
that
guys.
controversial?
Well, maybe
I
it's
deny
not.
that.
I'm not sure it's controversial, but who's going to,
Oh, okay.
is anybody here going to do it? I mean,
Oh,
yeah.
I did see a post that maintained that likely the parts would cost more than the devices were worth.
Oh, that's interesting.
that wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah. Yeah. So good for Apple. I mean, you know, this removes the whole right to repair thing and gets them out of the crosshairs of those folks. But I can't, I mean, I depend on my iPad. I cannot imagine me trying to crack my iPad open to repair something.
Well, if you don't
But
want
I
it to,
think this mostly means that some small non-Apple shops can, you know,
Oh.
or any non-Apple shops can now work on, you know, and maybe places like where Eric is at universities could, you know, have a tech department that did stuff like that, things like that, or larger corporations could bring that in-house.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. So, Dave, I want to turn to you, since that would be potentially something because you're in corporate IT, and I know you've talked about your company uses iPads. Is this something that you would seriously consider trying to bring in house?
No way. We would never do it. It's not something that's worth an expense whatsoever. We'd rather just outsource it or work with Apple Care and have them service it. You know, you hire a contracting team to manage the whole process, and then they would incorporate that into their. If they do that, that's their prerogative. As long as they get fixed. And I'm not saying anything specific about my company. In general, I don't see companies wanting to spend a lot of money on that type of service because it's just there's too much overhead. You know, you have to have a full-time employee to do it. You know, or even contractors. You know, let the MSP, a managed service provider, take care of that. And if they choose to do that, they will. But the thing is, these MSPs are probably going to just opt to working with purchasing the iPads and include the enterprise version of Apple Care, and that would get taken care of because Apple would come on site, whatever contracted repair folks that are there, and they would fix whatever had to be fixed. So then there would be no need to have these parts on hand or doing anything like that.
Marty, Eric, same question to you guys because you both are associated with universities. Is this something that your IT department you think would consider doing?
My IT department would go, whoopsie, looks like you broke it.
Sounds pretty common in the education world.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean,
Eric?
it's. I could see somebody thinking it was a good idea for maybe a security reason, but again, the cost is enough that you could take the iPad, shred it, and then buy a new iPad, and it's then still secure.
Okay. I'm fascinated by this. I think it's a great move on Apple's part to get out of the right to repair thing, but I have a hard time believing, unless you are just somebody who wants to geek around and crack the case on something to see what it looks like and help you understand it. And if that's you, great, good for you. But I would feel much better giving my beloved iPad to an Apple technician to repair.
Yes.
Yeah,
But there are-
it's sort of like they created a doorway. Okay, you asked us for a doorway, we gave you a doorway. If you want to go through it, fine, but I don't think most folks will go through it. And those that do, that will go to like a store and say, "Can you fix this for me?" Probably those consumers aren't as informed as they should be about things like Apple Care and the difficulty of secondhand providers doing those kinds of fixes.
And I'm not even sure that there may be some Apple stores where the repairs are done on site, but I think every time I've had to take something in, hardly anything gets done in the store. It might get tested out in the store, but it doesn't actually get fixed in the store. They send it off to a technician, overnight it there, overnight it back, and the service is fantastic. I mean, because you have visions of being without your computer or your iPad for a month, and most of the time it's back in 2, 3, 4 days, depending on where it has to go and where you are. Dave, were you saying something? I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to jump in again here. The fact of the matter is that the Apple Care is going to be something that they want to use to get this thing serviced, and that's going to be the only thing that really wants to do it. I look on the enterprise side of things. That is a valuable tool. Yeah, it doesn't cost that much more by going with the enterprise version of Apple Care, and you guys don't tend to see that, but it does have a lot different tiers where they assess what you're going to get, and you can get longer warranties on these products too. Sometimes 4 years, whereas standard consumer Apple Care, you can't do that. You can. I take that back. You can pay renewals every year, but in the enterprise side, you can have one fixed Apple Care for 4 years if you wanted to.
If anybody out there is repairing their own iPads, please contact me. I'd love to know how it goes, and I'd love to know what your thinking is. If it's something other than just I wanted to see what it looks like in there.
One more point, if you don't mind.
No, Dave, go.
These third-party repair shops, they always had the challenge to get parts. Now Apple's opening that up too. So not only you can fix it and you can get the tools that you need. These guys can buy those tools if they so wish, but they can get these parts and be able to service the product. And because there's plenty of places that don't have Apple stores nearby, and good example, our friend Ben, who lives in Iowa, his nearest store is like 3 hours away. He's not going to drive all the way out to a store that far. So why not? Wouldn't the local area might possibly have a repair shop that would be local, and they don't have to have a relationship with Apple. They can now buy these parts, where Apple was very restrictive and you could do that before. They're opening it up a lot more. So.
I'm glad you brought up the third parties, my intent is not to disparage them.
No.
But because there are some great independent Apple repair shops out there. We've had 2 in my area, 1 closed. I believe the 1 is still operating, but like the ones in the mall, are you really comfortable, or is anybody really comfortable taking their machines in to someone like that and having them open it up and poke around inside?
Especially those kiosks that they have.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm
shops.
thinking about. Yeah. I mean, fix your iPhone. We'll replace your screen.
Yeah.
I'm going to be very, very hard pressed to do something like that. I think I'd rather get ship my phone off to get it repaired properly and buy a burner for a couple days.
That's the thing. People were not like us, who are Apple knowledgeable, that they see it in a mall and they have a cracked screen. Hey, this is a great deal, and they're going to probably charge a little less. Entices them to do it, and let's not say that these places aren't reputable and do good work, but yeah, you got to be buyer beware and be aware of what reviews that these particular shops have had.
Yeah. I don't mind endorsing this. I have an old iPhone 6S that I can still use as a phone, but mainly I use it as a camera, as a secondary camera. But the battery was just it was basically worthless. And I found a place that repaired phones, and they had they had a battery for it in stock, and did it for a very reasonable price. But that was still my iPhone. And so I made sure that I plugged it in and I wiped everything. I mean, I took it the whole way back to factory settings. And then once it was fixed, I just reloaded it from iCloud and everything was fine. But and this was a reputable chain, but I still was not comfortable handing over that with access to iCloud or access to anything else. So I wanted it taken down the whole way. And I have no reason to believe that they're anything but legitimate, but better safe than sorry. Barry gets the last word. I would rather drive 100 miles to the nearest Apple store than handing my device over to a kiosk in the mall.
Agree.
Yeah, right there with you, Barry. I don't think we have any. Well, we have some people here that dabble in games occasionally. Apple has acquired a tiny two-person developer. They developed a game called Sneaky Sasquatch that apparently has been a quite the hit on Apple Arcade. I'm maybe a little embarrassed to say I've never even heard of Sneaky Sasquatch. Has anybody else?
No.
Okay, was this? Eric.
Oh.
Oh, Brian and Eric. Eric
Oh.
gave two
Good.
thumbs up and Brian raised his hand. Tell us about Sneaky Sasquatch.
I haven't played it. I heard of it though.
Oh, okay.
I
Well,
was
that's
I was
good.
familiar with it. Yeah.
Okay. So Eric, are you our
Yeah,
Sneaky
it's
Sasquatch?
it's fun. You know, they when you start, it kind of gets you out of the house and down a trail, and you go a little bit, and they've got a hint raccoon that explains what you probably want to do and sends you on your way. Then you get yelled at, and then the raccoon comes back and says, "Oh, no, 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 you have to be sneaky," and that's the beginning of everything. And then you go in and you know, have to figure out how to get something to eat out of some poor camper's cooler who is going to come back and starve. But, you know, you had lunch. You don't eat it at the cooler, though. You got to find a picnic table because we're civilized. And then, you know, get done with that, and you go to head home, and the ranger for the campground or whatever is sitting there sleeping near the entrance. You got to sneak by. So there's a different thing to tap to say that you go up on your toes and you sneak out, so you don't make as much noise because your feet are big. And then the raccoon helper sends you off on your way, says get a good sleep for the night, and you know, we'll start again in the morning. So yeah, it's good.
I will
So-
never get that time back,
Yeah.
by the way. I just-
Well, then you're just gonna have to play the game so you get the actual real visuals.
There must be some people like it. 215,000 ratings and it's average of 4.9 out of 5.
Listen, you know, I think this is interesting because there was quite a bit being made about this was the first game developer studio that had been acquired by Apple. Yes, I know it's two people, but it's interesting to see that maybe they're finally putting a little focus on gaming, but not as much the big bad tentpole games, but these relatively simple, small, and that's not disparaging any Sneaky Sasquatch or any other game, but something that is more geared toward the handheld market. So, yeah, good. Eric, I mean, you were oddly specific about all of this. So, is it fair to say that you spent a lot of time as a Sneaky Sasquatch?
No, I mean, that's just the opening. That's the first time you play that you get all of that in a short little segment. So I compare it really to playing a game of solitaire or this, right? And you've got something you're waiting for. I don't do well waiting. I get impatient. So I either play solitaire or a short game. And there's like, basically a short chapter, a short round, and you play it and then you're done and you put it away and then you get back to work. Because you're just trying to distract yourself enough so you don't get impatient and reboot the machine that you just needed to wait an extra 3 or 4 minutes for. Or
Okay.
you're sitting in a car waiting for somebody to come out after they're doing whatever it is they're doing that you didn't want to do. So,
This
You're
is
trying-
getting more
Well,
specific by the minute,
like,
Eric.
you go to the hardware store and you don't get out because they're having a sale on tools, and you know that if you get out and you go in, you're going to buy another set of batteries and another chainsaw, and you can't afford that, so you sit in the car, and this gives you something to do so you don't get impatient, go inside, and
Okay. Okay.
Apple's next press release. We've saved Eric Bolden $750,000 this year alone by
Yep.
using our app store to keep him out of Home Depot.
Yes. And there's no chainsaw shortage because we were able to do this. Otherwise, Eric would have bought them all.
I tell you, Milwaukee Tools came out with a dual battery chainsaw, extra long blade.
Did it just get hot in here?
Yeah. Ah, I knew I
Was-
should have stopped this earlier.
I should
that
have
the one that Eli
had the
used?
game. Yeah. I
Does
had
anybody
this-
crave a cigarette like I do?
Oh my. Was anybody here using the Arc browser?
I had it on my Mac and I just uninstalled it after I saw they're getting out of it.
Adam Engst wrote up a really great glowing article on the Arc browser. I tried it and I just couldn't quite catch the fever. Nothing wrong with it. I just okay, I'm just not sure that it either wasn't for me or I just wasn't getting it. And when somebody like Adam writes something up, I really pay attention because okay, this must be something that has a lot of validity and I really need to pay attention to it. And I just missed it. So this is now being discontinued in favor of a new, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Dia app, which again, I'm not quite sure this is for me, but I gotta keep looking at it and trying to figure it out. So no Arc users here? Okay.
No, I stopped.
Okay. Oh, Jeff, I'm sorry.
Well, Marty first.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize Marty was relating to this. Marty, please.
Yeah, we did a episode of Tech Savvy Professor on browsers and browser use, and we talked about Arc. At least my colleague brought it up, and so we started looking at it. I never spent enough time with it to look at it and do much of a comparison to it. The weird thing was I got an email from somebody who listened to the episode and they just raved about it in terms of how brilliant it was that we suggested that they try this out. So there are definitely fans out there, or at least a fan out there about it in terms of its use.
Yeah, that my perception is that if you loved it, it really resonated with you and you loved it. And if not, you were kind of left like me scratching your head. Jeff?
Okay, so Chuck, your comments about how it just didn't click for you, you're the reason why Arc is being discontinued. And when I say you, I don't mean you specifically, but everyone like you that tried it and just didn't get it and it didn't click for them. But then there's the other side of it. Marty got the comment from someone who raved about it. Adam liked it. I found it to be a very fascinating product because what they were trying to do was, I think, actually really brave. They were trying to take the whole concept of how we interact with online content and kind of turn it on its ear and come at it from a completely different perspective and give you a new way of interacting with all the stuff that you do online. And notice I didn't say web browsing, but that's part of it. It's all the stuff you do online. And the concept was I think really interesting. For me, I already had a workflow set up using other tools that really works great for me. And while I could see the value in Arc, it it just wasn't the right tool for me. Um, so that whole site. What I find really fascinating about the letter, the blog post that the Arc founder wrote is that they get that what they made, most of it people weren't even using because they could look at the data and all this stuff that they were putting into it, just no one cared. And what they're looking at doing now, um, I think is actually really smart because they're looking at how do we create something that allows people to have the online experience that they need that includes all the things that go beyond the whole concept, the paradigm, if you will, of a web browser. Because that's how we've been doing our online thing for decades. Countries have risen and fallen since we started using web browsers. And the way we use the internet, especially over the last couple of years, has been changing dramatically. And a web browser is not designed with that in mind. And so what they're doing now is trying to come up with something that addresses the new way of using the internet and online information. And I'm really interested in seeing what they do because like they said in their blog post, it's not just them seeing this. Other companies are seeing it too. So that tells me that they're not the only company that's working on this concept. I cannot wait to see what sort of tools we use. And I think they're also right when they say that the web browser is, as we use it today, is going to die. And we may have products that have the same name in the future, like Safari and Chrome, Edge, whatever, but these will be fundamentally different tools.
Jeff, when you were talking, one of the sentences in the open letter really struck me. But for most people, ARC was simply too different with too many new things to learn for too little reward. And
Mm-hmm.
I hadn't looked at it that way, but that may explain my experience with it.
I think that explains most people's experience with it, which is not to say it's a bad product. It's just
Yeah.
a product that didn't land for a lot of people.
Right. Right. Well, oh, Marty, you had a comment. Sorry.
Yeah, my I on the new Mac that I have here, I didn't download Arc, so I went in to see if I could still download Arc. And sure enough, you still can, and you can install it. So what happens when they stop Arc? I mean, are they going to, is it going to stop functioning as a browser? Are they going to leave the legacy one out there for people to play with until it becomes not useful anymore? And then I went ahead and went to look for Dia, which is its replacement and or upcoming replacement, and it's just waitlisted right now. You can get on a wait list for it for when it comes out. So if you read the article and have some interest in what the new one is going to be, you still can't get it yet.
Yeah. But if you want to see kind of maybe some of their ideas, download the existing one. So since we're talking browsers and sort of in following up on what Jeff said, there's a new fully agentic Opera browser that can surf the web for you. And I have not had a chance to play with this. I will say that I've used Opera, and the only reason I don't use Opera on a regular basis is because I keep forgetting about it. but it is a really nice little browser that just keeps adding feature after feature after feature. And so this just motivated me to move it back into my dock and say, I've got to get more familiar with this. But has anybody else, and especially the fully agentic browser, this is another one of those new concept things that Jeff was talking about. Anybody here used Opera at all? Marty?
Yeah, I used it
Jeff?
as an alternative to Chrome, based on the Chromium, and enjoyed it. You have to look for new places to find the stuff that you want to do. I did go on and with the article tried to find out about Neon, which is apparently the agentic web browser they're talking about, because I wanted to download that to see if it was functional. And right now it's just get on our wait list. We'll let you know when it's available. So they're putting this out, I think, as a push forward to say, hey, because agentic is the hot term. LLMs was hot. Now it's going to be agentic AI or agentic AI, and it is. They wanted to push their name out with that attachment early on, so it's still not available for public use.
Yeah, but that doesn't take anything away from Opera as a browser.
No, not at all.
If you have interest in this, maybe play with Opera, get familiar with it. Now, Jeff, you said you've used Opera as well. What was your use case? Anything just other than testing?
Well, ultimately became just testing. But I was looking for browser alternatives initially. And at the time, I found Opera to be just like a bag of hurt. Now, Opera has changed dramatically to the point where I would go so far as to say Opera today is not the same product that I used back then. But when they come out with new versions that have a lot of new things in them, I download it. I play with it for a little while, and it's like, okay, so that's Opera. Go you. But so when they have their agentic AI thing working publicly, then I'll download it and I'll experiment with it again. And maybe this time they'll hook me, but more than likely it'll be the same thing where it's like, okay, I'm glad we have a lot of browser choices because not every browser is for everyone, and this one's not for me.
Okay.
I installed Opera a few weeks ago, a couple months ago maybe. Played with it for an hour or so, and I was like, yeah, they did a bunch of stuff, but kind of like Jeff is like, well, this is too much. I'm going back to Safari.
Yep, there you go.
Well, that sounds like my experience with Arc. That, yeah, they did a bunch of stuff. I'm not sure I understand it all, and it's not intuitive to pick up. So, I'll go back to maybe that means we're all lazy. I don't know. Or maybe it just means they could have everyone could do a better job of giving us a little extra training. I know we talk about a lot of lawsuits here, and this one really has nothing to do with Apple and everything to do with the world around us. Because I had not even heard of this, and maybe some of you had. Jeff, maybe you, especially the world you inhabit. But Getty Images is spending millions to battle a world of rhetoric in AI lawsuit, CEO says. They are fighting against a Stability AI, a photo licensing company, where apparently there's a question over exactly how Stability AI used some of Getty's images or obtained Getty's images and the purpose to which they put them. Some of what I've read here in this article and some others is really interesting because it gets into issues we've talked about innumerable times about ownership and who's doing what with our data, our images, our voices, our likenesses. And so if you are so inclined and are interested in that, check this out. But was anybody even aware of this fight going on?
No,
Mhm.
No, because Getty Images is
huge.
they're the 800-pound gorilla of stock photography.
Yeah. Chuck, at a very simple level, this is about Getty wanting to control how their content is used for AI training. And they have their own system that that they I need to start that sentence over again. Getty has their own system in place. They use the content that is loaded into their system to train their AI things, and they want everyone else to pay them for all of that. And they have done licensing with other companies where those companies can use Getty's content to do training within whatever the terms of the contract are. There are other companies that have just simply scraped Getty's database and use that for their own thing. Ultimately, what it comes down to is Getty is being very aggressive about trying to protect what they see as their own property, meaning the content that all these creators are making, and wanting to control every dollar that comes out of that versus allowing anyone else to do the same.
Jeff, doesn't that sound oddly like some of the discussions? Pardon me. Doesn't that sound oddly like some of the discussions we've had here about some of your writings and some other folks' writings, that maybe not on the dollars part, but wanting to control the uses to which things are put?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what caught my eye here is like, okay, I get it. I mean, in a pre-AI world, which really wasn't that long ago, you would never have thought, well, some of us would never have thought of taking a Getty image and using it inappropriately, especially in a commercial venture, or you'd have had the full weight of Getty coming down on you, hard.
Yeah.
So now Stability AI seems to be trying to, I don't know if it's break the rule, bend the rule, jump over the rule.
I think they're trying to bend it.
Yeah, so this is going to be something to watch, because the precedent could be far-reaching.
Mm-hmm. There's
So,
going to be more lawsuits like this over the next few years. And my expectation is that while the rulings that we get in the various court cases will be useful, a lot of those rulings won't happen because they'll reach a point where they settle out of court. And so 5 years from now, I don't expect to see a clearer image of how this content is going to be used or can be used. And that applies to all original created content, whether it's written, audio, or image in some way.
Jeff, I'm kind of surprised to hear you say that, because as we're winding down, maybe, perhaps, hopefully, the Apple Epic thing, it just feels like somebody's going to push this that has the money to do it, and Getty certainly would be one to do that, to just push it to get that precedent set. The question
Mhm.
becomes: is it a good precedent or a bad precedent, depending on where you sit? But I feel like, because otherwise, Getty's going to be settling out of court on a regular basis, and I'm not sure that's really what they want, or any of these other entities want. So,
Well, okay. Well, let's say Getty takes this one as far as it can go, and or I just forgot the name of the company that they're fighting in this one.
Stability.
Thank you, Stability. Or Stability takes it as far as they can go. So let's say this gets to the U.S. Supreme Court, and the court agrees to hear the case. The ruling that they will give will set a precedent, but it will be so narrowly focused that it will be difficult to apply it in meaningful ways to the majority of AI cases.
That's fair. That's fair. So the precedent will be there. Other lawsuits will try to rely on it and maybe be rejected. And then we have more laws to be made.
Yep.
Should have gone to law school.
You missed out, Chuck.
I did.
So did I.
Yeah. This is more just information, but a week or so ago, we talked about Florida passing an app store law. Now there's an app store law just passed in Texas that Tim Cook apparently himself tried to stop and was unsuccessful. And so, we're back to having all the states seeming to try to dictate some of these things. This one happens to be collecting and storing personal information. Is this the genesis or the basis of this? So take a look at it. It may or may not be around for a while because I think still has to pass. If I remember reading it correctly, there's still things that have to pass, and whether I will actually get to be law anywhere, but I don't know, Florida and Texas. What can I say? Okay, so just for laughs here, did you guys see this? That Meta plans to open its own physical stores like the Apple Store.
They need to talk to Microsoft.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
You're right nail on the head.
Or Gateway.
Jim, you read my
Oh
mind.
my God,
You
Gateway.
read my mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what am I missing? I mean, they have what a couple models of headsets and the glasses.
Yeah. So I went ahead and tried to figure out what the rationale would be or why basically stores like this fail. And it hits all the wrong points in it, that everybody's shifting to online sales. So why would you do in-store sales? There's really lack of a compelling reason to visit these. And there's just not enough product in their product line, as you said, Chuck, to make me want to come in and, I'm going to go to the mall and I really want to visit that Meta store.
Good. I'm glad, Marty, because I looked at it too and thought, I just am missing this. Listen, and whoever brought it up, do the Microsoft stores even still exist?
No, they closed out.
Okay,
Very limited. Yeah.
I haven't run into one in a long time. Of course, every time I did, they were empty. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, there were two clerks standing around playing games on the computers because that's all. Nobody ever came in to see them. So what Meta's thinking about, I don't get.
Yeah, I
Brian?
have half their inventory right here.
Brian?
But I'm perfect. Go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. That's right.
I'm just going to say I'm perfectly fine with Meta burning up their resources to no useful end. And also, when Apple came out with their stores, everyone was like, "Oh, they're idiots." So I think Meta's probably doing a dumb thing here, but who knows? It's what everybody thought about Apple. So
Who's
Yeah.
laughing now about Apple?
Yeah.
Yeah. At least Apple
I
had
mean, at
products
least
to sell.
Apple had more than a VR headset and a pair of glasses to sell.
I was
I'm
just
what did they have? Did they have anything besides the Mac back then?
iPods?
Did they have iPods already?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Are you sure about that?
Stores open, I think, 2001, 2002,
When did iPods come out?
2001.
People also were made fun of the iPod as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, listen, I'm not necessarily making fun of the products. I'm just making fun of the idea that, I mean, they're going to have to sell a lot of what Marty held up there to try to even make a financial go of anything. unless they have a whole product line waiting in the wings, or they can figure out some supplemental materials, supplemental products to go with those.
The original Apple stores opened about 6-7 months before the iPod.
That's right.
Okay.
May 2001 for the stores, November for the iPod. So they just had Macintosh. That's it.
Barry said maybe the Meta stores will be kiosks. Oh, good. That's perfect, Barry. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good one.
Brian, get in here.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think if they were really strategic at placing some of these stores in maybe some very densely populated areas, or maybe not having its own whole store, but a partnership with like a Best Buy or something, I could see, because of the nature of those products, the VR headset and the Ray-Ban smart glasses. I think they're kind of, those are a couple of products that are difficult to read about or watch videos on and really not understand the full experience, I guess. So if you're able to attract some people by a demonstration and using them and that type of thing, I think in a very strategically placed way, I think it could be, they could build more momentum and more people maybe buying their products.
Eric?
Well, obviously they just need a more expensive headset. They'll come out with a $3,500 headset and a store to demo it in, and they'll be all set.
Jeff?
No, I just think Eric is brilliant. And that idea is so crazy, it just might work.
Yeah.
They need a music player. That's what they need.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it needs
I
to
heard
be
there's
brown.
a warehouse of Zunes sitting
Yeah.
around somewhere. They could just rebrand those.
Yeah, it needs to be brown. Webb, you've been quiet on these Westview stories. Nothing. I mean, are you just sitting absorbing, or?
Yeah, it's yeah. Doing a store, we'll see. It, they'll come out with a VR headset, costs $34.99, so they can make it just a little bit cheaper, price competitive. So yeah, just okay, fine. I remember what was it, the Gateway stores? Yeah,
I bought one from there.
Calbox Gateway
Calbox.
stores, yeah, and there was one. It was next to the video store where I used to rent my VCR tapes, if you want to go back that far. So I walked around and looked at it and was still spending 2.5, 3 times as much on a Mac and still loved it better. So anyway, yeah, let's see what they do. Like we said, Microsoft tried this, but I think Microsoft had a different ulterior motive. I think this is more of a trying to get acceptance on the headsets. I'm not trying to pick a fight with Eric and Marty, but or David for that matter. I still have not found a compelling reason to plunk down my 3,500. But then again, I haven't gone into a store and tried one yet. So
yeah, and I don't think Meta needs help selling their headsets and having a storefront to do it with. I mean, they're all over Best Buys, people who are looking for them. It's already in the social media for folks to know what it is. A storefront is not going to have a bunch of walk-by traffic going, oh, headset.
All right. So what's their real motive for this? And I'm not tossing that out like, hey, I know what the real motive is, but everything you said is right. So what's their real goal with this? Because it doesn't sound like it's to draw in enough people to sell a crap ton of headsets and cover the expenses of having retail stores. So there's something else that they're doing.
Zuckerberg gets to look like he's got a storefront like Apple or an attempt like Apple. It's kind of an image and branding thing.
I'm trying to find Jeff. You bring up a great point, and Marty, I like your explanation. I'm trying to figure out, okay, what kind of information can they generate out of a store that can be sold? Because that's what pardon me, that's what Meta does, is they scrape everybody's data and and they monetize it. And so what could they get out of opening a store at any kind of scale? I don't know. Folks, if you have ideas, drop me an email.
Yeah.
You know, they'll probably listen. They'll probably have a line of black Zuckerberg T-shirts. That'll give them one more product. So, last one of the evening. T-Mobile's app is recording your screen by default, and you should turn it off. Dave, I know I'm not sure who else here is a T-Mobile customer. Dave, I know you've been a big advocate of theirs. Is this did somebody just be stupid on this? Why would they do this? This is another one of those that I just think somebody somewhere is so clueless that they thought somebody wasn't going to pick this up and interpret it exactly this way. Do you have any ideas why? Dave?
Yeah, I don't know. I understand. I mean, I commend them on the end of having the option to be able to do screen sharing, because trying to get a question answered from a carrier is never that easy. You have to explain things to them, and a lot of times you're speaking to somebody that doesn't speak very clear English a lot of times. But on the other hand, yeah, we should have the option, and they can come back and say, hey, we want to do some screen recording. Can you enable it? And then ask for it. But I am kind of, I'm not thrilled with the fact that it's on by default, and that they shouldn't have done that.
Yeah. And Jeff,
I'm willing to admit that I might be living in an alternate reality. I mean, look around me. But I thought this was like news a year ago or so, and everyone got all hot and bothered and upset about T-Mobile's spying on me all the time now, and then it died down, and apparently now it's a thing again, or am I thinking of something else?
I don't remember that. So I'm not going to call you wrong, but I don't remember that. I can sorry, Jeff, go.
Well, regardless of whether or not I'm misremembering, I mean, it's good to know when apps are being used in a way where it is capturing additional information about you, so that you can make an informed decision about whether or not you want to allow that to happen.
I can see somebody sitting in a room somewhere that's kind of isolated and maybe is not paying attention to all the issues we talk about, saying, well, this would be a great service because we can just log right into our customer's phone and help them solve their problem right there and not have to get them to, flip 3 or 4 switches to let us do it. So this
sort of like Apple can do with your Mac and your iPhone.
Yeah, fair point. So, but again, this is one of those that's just, you got to look at all the reasons and all the interpretations. Hey, I lied. There's one more that I was going to bring up. I don't know that there's a lot to be said about it. But apparently Victoria's Secret has had a security incident. The website was down. And from what I've seen, they're being kind of, I tried to do a little follow-up on this and didn't really see a whole lot, except to say that there's been a cyber incident, which seems to be the new nomenclature for something bad happened, but we don't want to tell you exactly what.
Well, they may not know exactly what yet.
Fair point. But I would definitely Victoria's Secret, if you're out there, I would like to offer my services in helping investigate your security incident.
Is that a euphemism?
Take it as you wish, Jeff. Just like we do most of your comments.
Fair, fair.
Nobody else is going to weigh in on this. Come on. The jokes
Yeah,
almost
I
write
think-
themselves.
They had a slip. Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
oh.
I didn't see that one coming. Oh,
Yeah. Sorry.
Then it didn't. Then it wasn't Victoria's Secret product.
You mean somebody's got access to all the stuff I bought off that site?
was it-
Maybe. Also, Marty, the red stuff, I think that did look better than the blue.
Well, Christmas time.
That makes sense. Yeah.
oh my God, you two are just too good at this. So stop. I'm not sure where it's going to go, but it's not going to end well. Folks, thank you very
Chuck,
much.
You haven't lived until you've seen Marty's Victoria's Secret costume Jingle Bell rendition. Just saying.
He's checking.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. This has been an enlightening, entertaining, slightly terrifying episode of Mac Voices Live. Let's go around the room and let folks know where they can find you. Then we're going to get out of here. But before we do, I just want to remind you again, MacStock Conference and Expo is coming up in July in Crystal Lake, Illinois. I think just about everybody here, I know Jim's not going to be there. Who else is not going to be there? Anybody? I think everybody else is.
Everybody else is, yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to be at MacStock. A lot of the folks here and a lot of others are speaking. We're going to have a great time. There's going to be a lot of information and learning done. There's going to be a lot of great times had. We want you to join us. Mike Potter's been nice enough to offer us a $50 coupon off the registration for MacStock. So go to MacStock Conference and Expo, use the code MacVoices50, and you'll save $50 on registration. But by all means, please get there because we want to see you. We want to enjoy your company. Hope you'll enjoy ours. You can tell us what you really think of us or not. So, MacStockConferenceandExpo.com. Dave Ginsburg, thank you so much for being here. Actually, you were today's Road to MacStock interviewee. So
I was.
jump on over to MacVoices.com. You can hear Dave talk about what he's going to talk about.
Yes, please do.
Other than
thanks for
that,
hav-
where can folks find you, Dave?
Thanks for having me as always, Chuck. I always love being here every week. You can find me at InTouchWithIOS at InTouchWithIOS.com, YouTube channel, youtube.com/InTouchWithIOS. Getting a lot of great feedback about my new artwork and logo. Really happy about how it turned out. So go take a look at that. It's good on the eyes. You can find me at on the Mac Show on Fridays on the British Tech Network, as well as I'm on Blue Sky Mastodon at DaveG65.
Great. Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Jim Ray, I gather that we will probably be missing your presence unless you zoom in from one of the parties. So until you get back, where can folks connect with you other than at WWDC?
Have to chase me down in Cupertino.
Okay.
Just head down the 280 to your right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. He'll still be wearing his Daring Fireball shirt or jacket or whatever
Hoodie.
hoodie.
Maybe.
Thank you.
I heard it's going to be really hot.
Oh, really?
I think I heard it was going to be 90 degrees or something like that. So I will probably not be wearing my.
Hope not.
Okay. Well, hey, have a great time. We
Thank you.
will look forward to hearing about your adventures and exploits when you get back. Webb Bixby, thank you for being here. As always, I did not even address the fact that that's a different quilt tonight. So I like what's behind you.
Yeah, it's one I think I've used it once before, but I used the last couple of weeks, and then I was gone for a month and had to come up with something a little bit new and different. So I pulled that one out of the folder. So anyway,
Yeah.
hey, you can find me at Blue Sky, Web Bixby, WEB BIXBY. What is it? At BSKY, whatever. So
.com.
yeah, I'm over there. So giving fair time because everyone else likes to talk about Mastodon.
Thank you, Webb. Good to see you as always.
Thank you.
Marty Gencius, I'm so glad you're feeling better and felt up
Yeah.
to joining us tonight. Where can folks connect with you?
Well, Monday nights with Eric, and now we've got Dave in as a regular for Vision Profiles at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We live stream through YouTube. And you'll see me Tuesdays here with y'all and Thursdays with Dave on In Touch with iOS, occasionally dropping in on the Mac show with the British Tech Network. Everything that you want to find out about the projects I'm involved with, you can find out at thepodtalk.net. And if you want to connect with me directly, Gencius, Jencius, at bisky.com.
Okay. Thank you, Marty. Good to have you. Eric Bolden, you've got ducks coming in one ear and going out the other. I don't know what else is coming and going from anywhere else. Where can folks find you?
No, it's not. No. Concentrate on the ducks, not the everywhere else. I can be found on Blue Sky at EA Bolden, or Mastodon at EA Bolden at techhub.social. And let's see, for Vision OS on Mondays with Marty and Dave. Mac OS here on what day is today? Tuesdays. Yes. It's been one of those days. And iOS and on Thursdays with Dave and Marty. And whoever else is there. So
And Jeff.
Oh yeah. Sorry, Jeff.
Oh,
I screwed up. I'll get it right eventually.
it's fine. Whatever.
Hey, Eric, before you go,
Yeah.
serious. As I recall, you have two different Mastodon identities. One for some of the photos and all that you share in the background.
Yeah. The photo one is EA Bolden at mas.to.
Okay. Yeah, because that's worth following, folks, because Eric does post some really stunning photos that I wish I could take things like that. Mine never seem to turn out. So
You can grab some of mine, move them over. Say, hey, look at this picture. I got irises this week and ducks and
yeah. No, I'm not going the duck route. No, we've already destroyed the duck route.
Well, after you post the ducks twice, you have to post the goose.
Yep.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks. That's all right. Just moving that kind of night.
It's a different kind of goose they're referring to, Eric.
Jeff Gamet, I'm glad you were able to make it just a little bit late, but thank you for being here so much. We always enjoy it. Where can folks find you?
Well, I'm glad I could make it too, and it's just a delight to get to hang out with everyone. All right, so where to find me? When I'm not overlaying yakety sax soundtracks to videos of Dave being chased down the 280, you can find me on the various social medias as JGamet. I'm active right now on Mastodon and Blue Sky and PixelFed. Then for shows, here for Mac Voices Live. And then Dave, he lets me join in on In Touch with iOS on Thursdays. Then I do the Big Show and the Mac Show for the British Tech Network. What's his name? That guy, Brian Chaffin, and we do the Context Machine, and Patrice Brindamore and I do Retro Rewatch. I think that I got everything.
No, that sounds about right.
Okay.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you. Last but absolutely not least, also coming in a little bit late, but that just makes the extra effort all the more impressive. Brian Flanagan Arthurs, thank you for being here. Where can folks connect with you?
Appreciate it. Thank you. Definitely a highlight of the week to be here every week with you guys. Best place to reach me is my website, brian8944.com. And then I invite everyone to enjoy a new podcast that I started last week on the desk of Brian. And I think it'll end up being a weekly podcast with a new episode coming out next week.
Great. I was going to ask you about that.
Cool.
So you're officially out and launched.
Out and launched. Yep.
Great. So folks, visit Brian's website, subscribe to the podcast. I'm anxious to hear what he has to say because Brian, give us your elevator pitch again, because it's an interesting mix of a lot of different topics.
Yeah, it's a very lighthearted podcast. It just kind of goes over some of my both professional and personal connections with hobbies, everything from sports, tech, economics, and just the best practices in education.
I love it.
Thank you.
Good luck with it. Good luck
I
with it.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Folks, this is Mac Voices Live, Tuesday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern on YouTube at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. We'd love to have you join us. We had Barry in the chat room tonight. We had Paul. Cletus just got here, so he's a little late, but he's going to watch it on Rewind. And a lot of other people who we don't know who they are. They just kind of show up and hang out quietly.
Lurkers.
So yeah, we'd love to have you identify yourselves, but if you're not comfortable, witness protection, whatever, we get it. Which is with this group quite possible. Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching.
Nice done. Well,
Wow, what an evening
that was fun.
Yeah,
that was. That was.
a lot of good stories even before the event next week.
You know, Brian, I was a little concerned about it, but yeah, the as I started gathering them up, it's like, oh yeah, that's good. That's fun to talk about. I'm still fascinated by the Getty one. I think that's just going to be something that turns far-reaching real quick. And maybe I'm just over expecting, but
I like
I
the
mean,
I
part
think your
about how-
expectations are right. I think ultimately we'll be disappointed though by how narrow whatever ruling we get actually is. So it won't be really useful for other companies that are trying to protect their property.
yeah. No, that's Jeff, that was a really good point, because those two things do tend to get narrowed down. And the Supreme Court tends to do very specific rulings. So
Mhm.
One
I
of the
like the
stories.
part about how Stable said that they thought that Getty's case had no merit. Like, now there's a shocker.
yeah, nobody's case ever has any merit.
Story of my life.
Oh, gee, our people suing us really have a point.
Yeah.
Said no one ever.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. I decided not to make this a public during the show. I have to be in Boston on Monday, driving back Tuesday. So there's that small a chance that I would not get back in time. If I don't, I'll either get something posted, or maybe Dave, I'll use a designated contact to stick
Sure.
something in the Slack if we need to start a little late or whatever. I don't anticipate it. The travel time usually is just fine, and every time I've done the run before, I've made it in plenty of time, which is exactly why this time, there'll be a helicopter crash or something on the highway, and I'll get stuck. So we shall see.
Hey, Chuck, wow. So for next week, I'm speaking at Macintech on Tuesday evening. But thanks to time zones, that means that I'm here for the first hour, and then I'll hop over and do their meeting.
Good.
Yeah,
Good.
I usually jump in with you. I forgot about that.
That's right.
I make that.
Um,
I'm making that a normal, regular thing now for those guys.
I am totally cool with that. Everyone's welcome to jump in.
So Chuck, don't be late.
Oh shoot, Webby just blew it right. Jeff, are you am I making this up? Are you speaking at Naples on Wednesday?
You're not making it up, but I'm not speaking at Naples. I was supposed to, but one of the meetings that we have for all the stuff for mom and dad has to happen where
Yeah,
the
that's
the
a tough
overlap
time.
isn't going to work.
Okay.
So Sheeta's like, don't worry about it. Take care of that, and we'll bump you to the next time.
Okay.
It's a tough time sometimes.
It's an adventure.
Yeah.
I had to take
Well-
time off to do it, so when I did it,
Well, Jeff, good luck with everything.
yes,
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
We're now, as of today, we're now in the mode of, okay, so we need to set hard dates for when things are happening, because we can start moving stuff next Monday.
So they're aware of the shift at this point?
Yes.
Good.
My parents have been very actively involved in the process, which I felt was important.
Cool.
So we or they have occupancy on the 9th. Realistically, they're not moving in on the 9th. And they're so when we get the logistics of stuff we need to order for them, have it delivered there, including a new bed that fits the space the way they want, then we can move them in. So I figure that it'll be at least a week after the 9th before we're able to actually get mom and dad in there. And then it'll be up to me and my brother and sister to take care of everything else in here for them.
took me a while.
Yeah.
It's process.
Yeah. Well, that's great because they'll be somewhere that they can receive the care that they need.
Yes, and they will be significantly closer to me.
Oh, that's
Even
good.
better.
Or
Yeah.
Yep.
Ironically, that happened with me too. Very close.
Yeah. Yeah, Dave, we could sit at the bar and
Yeah.
and
Compare
we
notes.
could share stories. Ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think we all could share some of those stories.
Yep.
Because I've been down that road with other members of my family, not my mom and dad, but a couple aunts. And yeah, it's just
It's very tough.
a lot of hard conversations.
Yep. Yep. And talking amongst friends, I have no problem saying this. This has been 6 months because it started on December 3rd when Dad fell and broke his femur.
We are streaming, by
So-
the way.
That's fine. We're fine. I'm not going to say anything that.
Oh yeah, yeah. How about Jeff? Let's say goodnight to the chat room.
Say goodnight.
Thanks,
Oh,
Dave.
Bye,
Yeah.
chat
Good night,
room.
chat room.
And if you want to know
Yes.
more about what I'm talking about, you have to find me at Macstock.
Yep.
There
There
you
you
go.
go.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here, chat room. Good night.
Bye, Jerem.
Oh, wait a minute. I almost ended us. Here, let me